welcome to Haunted Hangover Live. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by Manny.
We're also joined by the people in your hallway.
I know, I did hear that.
I heard them.
New York City life.
Usually I don't hear anything on yours, but like, wow, they were chatting it up.
Dude, it is one of doing a show and living in New York City, and Manny, you know how it is. You lived in Queens. You're in a quiet area now, but you lived in Queens for many moons. Can sometimes not be the most fun between neighbors screaming, playing music, murders happening down the block, cops, fire trucks.
It's a thing.
Drunk people stumbling down the block. It could be a rough go sometimes. But
yep,
we're here. We're gonna talk some horror conventions at the top here because we were both at, mostly you. You were there all weekend because you were a vendor.
Mostly me.
Mostly you. Yeah, I was only there one day. It was mostly you because you were there. Kind of. You had your mass grave pictures table, and you were selling stuff. So you were a vendor.
That I was.
You were a vendor.
Yep.
And I went for one day, and I had a very different experience because I was not a vendor. I was just going as a fan, I guess, or a consumer, I guess. Or I was going on official Haunted Hangover business because I was doing some, I did some Haunted Hangover stuff, which I'll get into. That video is not up yet. That's funny. Lauren, all my favorite podcasts are based on New York. There's always at least one siren. Yes. No, not a single New York City podcast is complete without a screeching fire truck or ambulance.
I can agree with that.
In the background. Funny enough, I don't think I've ever do I listen to any shows that are based in New York? None that come off. I couldn't tell if they were from New York off the top of my head right now. I can't think of one, but yeah, that is kind of funny that all New York podcasts have a siren in the distance. It's our room tone, just a siren happening.
You know, one of the biggest podcast out there, was their name? Last podcast on the left.
Yes, I've never listened to it, but I know what it is.
One of their hosts is from Woodhaven.
Oh, really? From Queens, represent.
From Woodhaven.
From our neck, of the wood, where we both lived originally. So
yeah, Lynn listens to it, and she got real excited when she realized he said it sometimes. She's like, "What?" Yeah, he's from Woodhaven.
Neither one of us are in Woodhaven anymore. Funny,
I can't remember which one it is, but it's one of them.
I've never listened to the show.
Yeah, neither have I. Well,
but yes,
other than peripherally, because she listens to it. So
yeah, but yes, horror convention. So the horror convention Manny and I attended was, and Manny, correct me if some of this information is wrong because you were more in the weeds than I was. It was the Long Island, the inaugural. So this was the first time they were doing this. This is the first version, I guess, of this horror convention. It was the Long Island Convention of Horror and Bizarre Alt Market. So alternative market. So out on Long Island, there's something called the Bazaar, which is a kind of
traveling fair.
I don't want to say flea market because it's not a flea market.
Yeah, it's a traveling craft market.
Yeah,
they do it like half a dozen times a year at all different locations.
Yeah, they you'll find people selling taxidermy, horror memorabilia, people selling prints, very horror centric, and hence the alternative market aspect of it. Records, VHS. I mean, stuff people that listen to this show would be into. And I know another big one in New Jersey is the punk rock flea market. Which is in is it Asbury Park? I think it's in Asbury Park. I've only been to that one time. So that's kind of in our tri-state area. I'm sure California has them. I'm sure Chicago probably has them. Every big city, I'm sure, has these type of events. But the one out here is the Bazaar. That's kind of the one we have. So they kind of teamed up with and you might have to give me some behind the scenes because I didn't meet any of the people putting this together. Since you vended, you kind of dealt with them a little bit more. Uh, is there a group called the Parks? It's something with Parks.
Perk,
Park
perks,
Perks.
perks department.
Perks department. They're kind of responsible for this convention and for
No,
no, they're not.
no, perks department is Bizarre Bazaar.
Gotcha. So that's
They
kind
are
of the
they
company.
run yeah, they run Bizarre Bazaar. The Bizarre Bazaar is their event.
Gotcha. So it's two separate events basically came together. Horror convention.
Yeah, it's so it seems like the two guys who are running Convention of Horror, obviously they want the, convention room.
No, of course.
They want the vendor space. They partnered with Perks department to curate the vendor space, to handle the vendor space while they did the rest of the convention.
Understood.
Yeah.
Now, Manny and I, and we haven't really talked about it on the show to my recollection. I don't think we've really dabbled, but Manny and I have been going to horror conventions like 20 years now. It's something crazy like that. It's something insane. Mostly Monster Mania, which is one of the bigger ones on the East Coast, I'd say. That's probably the big horror convention, and Chiller Theater, I'd say.
Yeah.
I'd put those two as
Those are the ones they're two of the bigger.
Those
two
are
of the
two of
biggest,
the big ones. We've also been to the New Jersey Horror Con, which we went. I've only ever been maybe once or twice. I know the first year I think was in Atlantic City, or the first couple years were in Atlantic City, which is when I know we went together.
Yeah.
I know we were both there. But honestly, between the two of us, it was mostly Monster Mania that we went to because we were vending and hawking our shit at the time. We Manny and I, we've talked about it briefly on the show. It's come up, but we made a movie. Manny directed it. I co-wrote it with him. Blood Slaughter Massacre. We were hawking that. We were hawking Attack of the Brain People, which was another project we worked on together. And kind of just, even before the movie was even made, we were at Monster Mania promoting it, trying to get people interested in our throwback slasher film.
Yeah.
So we were there, I don't know, at least, 6 years in a row we would go to Monster Mania?
Sounds about right.
At
2015 was the last year that I went to Monster Mania at all.
Yeah.
That was the last time I've ever been to Monster Mania. And we did have a table. It's just kind of decided it was a little too expensive to keep doing it.
Very pricey. It is very pricey.
It was getting more expensive too.
It was. Honestly, for an independent. Now, if you're a vendor that's selling, and I know we're going off in a tangent here, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about horror conventions at the top here, and then we'll get into our thoughts on the Long Island Convention of Horror. But if you're an independent filmmaker, in my opinion, you can do one or two horror conventions, promote your film, but I don't think there's a lot of long-term gain there unless you just want to network, which you can do without having a table, if we're being honest. In my opinion, 2 years after you get rid of all your DVDs of your slasher film or your possession movie, zombie movie, whatever, it starts to wane. And I don't think you don't make up for the table you just spent money on, etc. Because I even remember when we went, I think the first year or two when Blood Slaughter Massacre was on a physical release, those were like the best years. And then it started to dwindle because everyone had a copy. And, at that point we were just like drinking and hanging out and talking to people, which is always a good time. So that's kind of like our history with horror conventions. We went originally as fans, and then eventually, myself, Manny's wife, we were at a table and we had a bunch of friends. There was literally an entire row at Monster Mania. And if you listen to this show and you've been to Monster Mania, and the off chance you've been to that convention, in one of the main kind of vendor rooms, there used to be they're kind of like in aisles. There was one aisle, I think at one point where, and this was honestly the most fun I've ever had at a convention, was back when we used to do this. I think 5 to 6 tables next to each other were all our friends.
Yep.
So it was like the party row. Everyone had a beer or a drink.
Indie row. We called it.
It was indie row. We had a lot of friends and acquaintances and stuff that were selling their movies and selling their merch. And
it's funny because one of those people now is one of our table mates back then is Ryan Weber, who runs New Jersey Horror.
Who runs another, the third probably largest, I'd say, horror convention in the tri-state area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, that's up for debate.
No,
Maybe.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was always there, and he was a filmmaker. I don't know if he's making movies anymore. I actually haven't talked to him in a long time, but I know he's running that convention. So yeah, I've always enjoyed going to horror conventions, but I will admit, after we after Blood Slaughter Massacre kind of that ship sailed, we stopped going to Monster Mania. I went once or twice afterwards just to go with friends that had never been to a horror convention, like Chris, who everyone sees here at Haunted Hangover. He had never been to one, so I went to one with him for fun. And I will admit, it was a very different experience going and not vending or not having a table and not trying to sell our own horror films, like, I mean, so it was like a very different, and at that point, I don't even think I had started Haunted Hangover. So this was before even that. And now I don't really go to them as much. I go here and there, to some of these markets. I rather go to the markets where there's vendors selling cool shit. But with this one, Long Island Convention of Horror, I knew you guys were going to be there. Some other people I knew were going to be there vending as well. So I said, you know what? We'll go. I'll bring a couple of the goons with me. We'll do one of our trivia, vlog videos that I just think are fun. I just like doing them. And we'll kind of hang out and see what this event's all about. Again, I only went on Saturday. Now, before I share my thoughts, I think it's only fair that Manny shares his side of it, since he did vend at this, and what his expectation, what were your expectations with this event? Just selling, because right now you're selling Theta States, you're selling Brain, you have Brain copies of Brain People, Channel X, a bunch of other films you've made, but what was your expectation with this event?
I wasn't expecting too much, considering it was, it's the first one.
Yeah.
What can you expect? It's the first one. You can't be like, oh, this thing's going to be great. It could be, I've definitely done worse shows. Yeah. I've done worse for sure.
I've been to worse for sure.
Yes. Blood and Babes, probably the worst.
Let's not talk about that.
We ever did that.
Yes, that was pretty bad.
That was probably the worst one we've ever done. But my expectations were too high. It wasn't terrible. It was slower than I expected. Not that I expected. Than I would have liked.
Okay.
But I do think, and actually no, not I think, I know for a fact, a big part of the reason why it was as slow as it was is because New Jersey Horror was this weekend as well. Yeah. A lot of vendors that Perks department would have had here were already vending Jersey Horror. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the, I heard a couple people over the weekend said the same, like even somebody I know said, for a horror convention, there's not really much horror vendors here. There was a handful of them out of the maybe 50 or 60 vendors that were there. I'm going to say maybe 10 to 15 of them were heavily horror based, and the others are just kind of peripherally. And then there was a bunch that weren't at all, and it's good to have a mix, but I do think that a lot of the primarily based merchandise vendors are all we're all at New Jersey Horror. I know at least 3 or 4 that were at the market in December.
Which I went to that market as well. Yeah.
Yes. Remember there was the one tent. There was the guy doing the coffin.
Honestly,
things, that one tent that was all horror stuff. Most of them were at Jersey Horror.
I mean, the bizarre market on Long Island and here in New York is definitely worth, in my opinion, is worth the trip to check out if you want to support some indie level small companies, prints and taxidermy and stuff like that. They have cool shit, and a ticket's like $15 or something like that.
Yeah,
which is one of my gripes with the Long Island Convention of Horror, but I'll get into that at the end. But continue, Manny.
So I think that was a big thing that hurt the festival, that hurt the show.
I agree.
Quite a bit. A lot of people were over there. In fact, there were a couple of guests who were booked here Friday night and then went there for Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Like it really was having it that it was
That
bad
was
planning on their
bad.
part.
That was bad planning. And you know what's funny is I didn't
And
know. So here's something funny. I didn't know. So we had planned to go to the Long Island Convention of Horror. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. Manny's gonna be there, and a bunch of other people. I'll go check it out. Louvers, my friend Johnny, who he's been on the show before as a guest, he went to the New Jersey and he hit me up and he's like, "Hey, you coming to this?" And I'm like, "No, man, I didn't know that was I didn't even know that was happening this weekend." So I think in the future they definitely need to look at the calendar
well,
because
the other part of it,
all these conventions do their best to avoid. Even Monster Mania is like next week, the
yeah,
time of this live, like it's next or
yep.
it's this weekend. So even that to me, it's like so close, guys. Spread it out because it's just oversaturated at
They
this
just
point as a horror
they just
convention.
didn't pay attention. They didn't pay
I
attention.
mean,
They didn't do their homework.
it's a
And the other
business.
part of it,
You got to pay
well,
attention, guys.
It
So
is. And the other part of it is that usually the other part that really hurt it too is that generally Jersey Horror is in Atlantic City. This time it was in Edison.
close. It was closer to New
Right
York.
over the
Yeah,
it was about an hour, maybe an hour 15, hour 30
yeah.
away. Usually Atlantic City, it's a good 3 hour drive away. So you're not really too worried about the same vendors, like, oh, we're losing vendors to that show because they're, 3 to 4 hour drive away. This being right across the outer bridge, like, no, these vendors went there because they knew it was a bigger show and they booked it. They're like, well, it's going to be, I could take a chance with the local first time show, or I could go to the one that's bigger, packed with guests, that's a bit farther away, but I know
Yeah.
I'm going to do better.
I'll be honest too.
You know?
That's the other thing. So I'm pretty sure I've said it on the show before, and Manny, I know we both are on the same page with this. So neither one of us are obviously horror fans, but we don't go to conventions and collect autographs and take
No.
pictures with people. Neither one of us are those type of people. We're just not into it. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So
No.
just to clarify, there is nothing wrong with going to a horror convention or Comic-Con or whatever and wanting to meet your favorite actor and get a photo or get an autograph. Manny and I think we've both done it. One hand we can count how many times
Yes.
we've gone. I think Elvira is like the only person and maybe like one other person here and there, but
Elvira, Tony Todd, Doug Bradley.
and that's it.
I think those are the only ones.
And this
I
was
have.
very early when getting an autograph and a picture
Yes.
was like $20.
Yes.
So we don't do that. Now, I will admit, when it comes to Long Island Convention of Horror, I feel like that's what was missing. And I get it; it was their first year, but and I'm of the mindset, even though I'm someone who doesn't collect autographs and wants to take selfies, with actors and stuff like that. That does bring crowds. That is that's what puts asses in the seats, even though there's no seats there, but you know what I mean? Gets asses through the door because people want to go and meet whatever, Linda Blair, etc. Whoever they can get. Monster Mania, New Jersey Horror Con, Chiller Theater, even the ones out like Midsummer Scream in California. There's so many of them. They all get at least a handful of names, even if it's only like 5 people, even the smallest convention, to get people there so that in between getting their photo ops and getting, drinks and hanging out, they can walk and check out the vendors. You got to entice guests to want to go to these events. And I mean this in the most respectful way. As far as vendors go, unless you're this big t-shirt company, which there weren't any at Long Island Convention of Horror, what is it? It's not benefiting anyone. No one's going to know who you are. But at least if there's an actor that's known for a film, or a relatively popular actor, it will get people there. And there's a big wrestling convention out on Long Island that gets big crowds because they'll get like Rhea Ripley and Cody Rhodes and Ric Flair will show up and feel people up and then they got to kick them out and stuff like that. So, like shit like that, it gets people indoors. So in my opinion, this convention was missing At least, and don't get me wrong. I also hate conventions that's all they're pushing when they're pushing the 20 celebrities that they have. But you still need to have a couple to get people to buy a ticket and walk through the door. And that's coming from someone who is, vended with you and has done that and has friends that have vended. Because if you get no one through the door, no one's going to buy your posters. No one's going to buy your figures. No one's going to buy your VHS. No one's going to. So when I walked into the kind of the market room, I felt bad. You got 50 vendors in there and there's 20 people walking in the room. Not everyone's going to buy something from that. So you gotta, whoever runs this, I don't know them. Obviously, Manny, you have a little more, you're more in the know with that. They definitely should try, besides moving the event to a different day to avoid clashing with another horror convention, get some people in there, because it'll help. And I get it's expensive, but you're in a hotel. This was located in the Hyatt in Hauppauge, which is the area in Long Island. It was a hotel. Most conventions, Monster Mania, Chiller Theater, are in hotels. I mean, so I just feel like that's what this was missing. Was why are people coming to this? Why are you bringing people here? I went into a panel or two, and I'm like, okay. And I'm not a fanboy type. That's not me. But why am I going to go into, this indie authors panel? Because I don't know who the hell he is.
Well, there was a bunch, honestly, that was that specifically the panel with all the authors.
Yeah.
People said there were a couple of people in there who at the end of that said that was one of the best panels I've ever attended.
No, listen. So, there's a lot.
I understand. I understand.
We both know a lot of talented people. I'm not saying
what
that.
I did like about the show was that it was a lot of more local people, a lot of local writers.
Yeah.
Local. I liked that. I personally enjoyed that. That it wasn't like most of the time you go to a con, like you said, there's a lot of people. It's all there for the autographs, and they're all there for that. And then there's a couple of people. This is what always pissed me off about us being at conventions, is that they were the indie local people like us who were completely ignored. And that's why we stopped going. That's why we stopped doing Monster Mania, and because by the time people got to our table, they had no money. And when we talked to the people who ran the event about, hey, we've been coming here for years. We've been paying for tables. We are fans of the event. We came here originally as patrons of the event. Now we're here as vendors. We're trying to build our thing. Can we do something with the show to kind of promote a little bit? Let's do. And they always said no. And that always pissed me off.
Yeah,
that always bothered me, that we were just like all the other fans, and we had other fans coming to us, and it's like, this is literally your homegrown talent.
Of course, yeah.
I understand we're not selling 1,000 tickets like Linda Blair is. I get that.
Yeah.
And I'm not asking.
No one's gonna sell 1,000 tickets like Linda Blair would.
No, but like you said, one of these shows we had, we were talking to for a while. Like you said, at Monster Mania, there were 5 or 6 tables.
Yeah, we're all friends.
All of us. And we all worked together. We were all in each other's films, so somebody could come buy one movie from all and get autographs from 20 people. Like, just, you were there. You can meet all of us. Every person who made every bit of the movie, you can meet them all, and we were all right there. And people loved that. And we were trying to, at one point, work with these conventions about, can we get a screening? Like, give us 2 hours, we'll put together a bunch of our short films and try. And they were all like, no. They literally told us, you don't sell enough tickets. You don't bring people in the door. And it's like, but here's the thing. This is an audience, and we are here, and we're doing this. Some of the other vendors, they moved them upstairs, and they started getting bigger, like at Chile, they started getting bigger tables. They started, and it was kind of like, but this is just one more thing they felt like screening Candyman for the 50th time is going to bring more people in, than us, and bringing all of our, and it's
about balance.
Kind of like, it was just like, that annoyed me, that as successful as their shows are, they have no interest in the local people that are also keeping this, that are also part of the show. You know, they don't care about indie films, and that always pissed me off, and that's why I stopped going.
And that's a
When we got
personal.
that,
That's a personal. That's
it's
like a
very personal.
personal.
It's
Yeah,
very
that's a
personal.
personal
So
issue.
that
Yeah.
was the one thing I did like about this show. It was smaller, it was less attended and everything, but it was all indie creators. There was a couple of names that you'd recognize. There was a handful. You know,
I didn't recognize anybody. If I'm being
Terry
honest.
Alexander was sitting at the front door.
Really? I didn't even
Terry
notice.
Alexander was right there. He was the first table in the room.
I even look. Lauren says I agree with that. I didn't go take a picture with Robert Englund at a convention, but it was cool to walk by and see fans that were. So, again, I agree with you. I see the perspective. I see your perspective of how you see it. But at the end of the day, to get people in the door, you gotta have a couple of names.
I'm not arguing that at all.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing. I'm not saying not to have the names.
And this is someone that doesn't even take pictures with people.
But the point is, you've already got 75 names on the bill. How does it hurt you to also promote the local creators and filmmakers?
You're talking about bigger conventions. We won't say any names, but
the big conventions that we've been there with since the beginning.
Yeah, but they don't.
You know,
you're not bringing. The indie people are not bringing.
No.
The
finish
cash.
that sentence. Yeah, but they don't finish that sentence. That's
but they
what
don't
I'm
care.
trying to say.
They don't give a shit.
They don't care.
Yeah.
That's my problem. Is that they don't care. The people who've been there since day one. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. One day, if I go or you go make a fucking horror movie that's hitting AMC, guess who they're gonna want as a guest? Guess who's gonna get the fucking emails?
Of course.
100% will get them. You know?
I mean, dude,
and
it could be. It doesn't even have to be.
He does that because being the fact that Ryan is one of us.
Yeah.
He does make an effort to promote the local. He has a discounted filmmaker table. He has a discounted artist table that you can get from him. The others do not have that. They can afford to have it, and they don't do it. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying don't do that.
Yeah.
But you guys have the ability. You have the money. You can afford it. Ryan will take a hit on his just so that to make sure that they're there.
Yeah.
Comic-Con even has it. Comic-Con has Artist Alley, and it's like
but
like
you can't compare Comic-Con to
no. But that's what I'm trying to say. They're big enough where they realize they can do that. They can have a less expensive table for the smaller artists so that they have a place too. A lot of these bigger shows do not have it. They just don't.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, the way I could see, like you said, the indie artist, filmmaker, podcaster, whatever, isn't gonna bring the money. Like that's in reality, and I get where you're coming from. I know you don't care, but I'm sure their perspective, it's like, okay, we bring Robert Englund in, we'll bring David Arquette in, we'll bring fucking whoever else in.
I didn't say not to bring them.
No,
what
I know.
I'm saying is that we aren't going to hurt their money either.
No, of course not. But I guess
it's
in
not
their
like
eyes,
people are going to be like, oh man, who are these guys? I'm not going to this show. No, because you got 100 other guests that are pulling people in. You still got Norman Reedus showing up. You still got Robert Englund who's going to be there every time.
Yeah.
So it's like, how does it hurt you to also promote lesser known names? I mean, I'm not saying put money into us, but if we're willing, we want to do something like 2 hours in a room, like one of the screening rooms that's empty half the fucking day. You know,
we're never gonna get that.
I got tired of fighting for them. I got sick of it.
We're never gonna get that. Even me, if I was like, oh, give Haunted Hangover an hour panel, I'd probably get that at a small place, at a small convention. But here's the problem. Are you going to have a panel, with 3, 4, 5 people just there?
I've been on panels at Horror Hound. Horror Hound is fucking huge.
Oh, it's a big convention.
Horror Hound is one of the biggest, and I've been on panels at Horror Hound.
No, of course, but
So how does it hurt these two assholes doing it?
No, but what I'm trying to say is, if you're doing a panel at a small show or an inaugural show like Long Island Convention of Horror, it's tough, man, because you're going to be there, 3 people, 5 people are sitting in the room. That's not what you want. You want crowds. You want people to be there. You're right.
I know that. And I did a panel at Horror Hound, and there was 150 people in that audience.
But that's different. That's Horror Hound,
I know that. Exactly my point. Why can't these two over here in Jersey do the same thing?
They don't care, Manny.
I know that that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's a rhetorical question.
No, of course. It's a circle. We're just gonna keep going.
I'm telling you for a fact, it's literally just them.
Yeah. Well,
Because even somebody who you interviewed, you had Pat Devaney, and you had him he's going to be on the.
No, he's not really an interview. He's just in the video.
No, he did the trivia thing.
Yeah, the trivia thing.
Whatever he did.
Yeah.
He did that. He's been on a panel at Comic-Con. He's been on it. Mark Abbott has been on panels at Comic-Con, and Mark Abbott was a guest here.
Yeah.
This is the biggest one. Comic-Con is literally the biggest, period. There is no convention on earth bigger than New York and San Diego Comic-Con. Doesn't exist.
Of course. But
And local indie artists are on those panels. So,
listen.
my gripe is literally it's very localized to the two.
Manny's airing his grievances right now.
I can't get on a panel at Comic-Con because I don't have that crossover.
Yeah,
you know.
But I would say even a convention like this. So focusing to bring it all back because that's kind of the point.
This convention needed a couple of names to sell it.
Yeah.
I do not argue that.
My perspective on it. So I went again as a fan.
There were a lot of indie people. I enjoyed that.
It's cool. It's cool. I'll be honest. I bought a ticket. I bought a ticket to their the Bazaar last December. Mm-hmm. I felt like it was the same event. That's my opinion. I was only there for one day. I did walk into a panel or two with my guys. Mm-hmm. We walked in, we walked around, we got footage for the trivia video. Chris bought something. The other goon bought something.
You also left
well.
early. They had a whole thing for Saturday night.
No, I know.
They had a whole party. There was like 2 or 3 bands that
which you had to buy another ticket for. I know there was like another separate ticket you had to buy for that event. I'm sure people just walked right in. They probably didn't even check. Yeah.
By like 5 o'clock, they were just handing out bracelets.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Saying here it's free because nobody was really getting them because they just didn't have the attendance.
Yeah, they didn't have the attendance.
So they did them free. I didn't understand that either. I thought that was a big mistake. It's like you paid people had to pay to get in the first place. Now you're gonna make them pay to go to the second thing.
It makes no sense. Yeah, I mean, Chiller Theater used to have bands play. I remember. I mean, I haven't been to Chiller Theater in years.
Yeah,
but
it would just be in the lobby.
It'd be in the lobby, and you'd hang out by the bar, having a drink and having a good time.
That was a big mistake. I doubt they'll do that again next year unless they have really something special with it.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean,
I doubt they'll do that.
To wrap up this horror convention, Long Island Convention of Horror Talk, I will say this: it was cool. If they don't get a couple of names there that will bring in people, I don't see it being a success, in my opinion. For that, just make it a market.
I agree with that.
Just make it a market. I love, and this includes me, if they were in the future, we're like, hey, Louie, you want to have a Haunted Hangover panel and talk about whatever? Mm-hmm. That's cool. But who's coming out to see me? Maybe a couple people. I don't know. But in reality, it's like, okay, I'm just being real. Like, it's not going to bring people to the convention, you know? So for me, it's like you got to have names there. And even Chris at one point was like, oh, there was an actor there. Forgive me. I don't know him. Mm-hmm. He was in The Strangers. Yeah. He was in, I think, another... yeah, I don't know him. I'm not... I know he's a Long Island guy. That's what Chris told me.
I knew Damien Maffei.
You might know him.
I knew who he was. Yeah.
I don't know him. Apparently, he was the sack head guy in The Strangers Part 2. Mm-hmm. Pray for Night, I think is what it's called.
Yep.
And he was in something else. He was a killer in another Haunt. Because that's what Chris told me.
Yep.
I would have never known that if I would have walked right past the guy. All respect to him. I respect him. You were in 2 killer movies. But I would have never, and I would, I would say I know my shit about horror movies. I would say I know a thing or two, obviously. I would have never known that's who that guy was and that he was at that convention.
What is it? Michael Levy and
who is that?
Shit, what's the other guy's name? Michael Levy and Jesus, I talked to them for a little while too. They both made.
You don't even remember who you
can't remember because I can never remember.
And that's the problem. I'm just saying.
Well, they made Stream. They worked on Terrifier.
No,
and then
of course.
Those are the guys. They were there Friday, and then they left, and they were
to
guests
go to New Jersey.
at NJ Horror.
Yeah,
they were guests. Banner. They had table and the whole thing.
I mean, you got to get people there all weekend, though. You got to get guests for the whole weekend.
I don't argue that.
So,
I don't know. You see, that's the thing. I don't know if they were booked to be here all weekend and they just left.
Possibly. Maybe they saw there was like
Possible.
12 people there.
I know that, I know that Damien Leone was booked at Jersey Horror.
Okay.
And I know that his brother Jason Levy was booked at NJ Horror. So Michael Levy was here, and God damn it, it's driving me nuts that I can't. Because as soon as I say his name, you're gonna know who I'm talking about.
I don't know. It's fine.
I promise you.
If it comes to you, we'll go back. We'll loop back around.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Like I said, just to kind of wrap this up, I feel like I hope it's a success. Pick a different weekend, guys. Don't sandwich this.
Marcus Nispel? No. That's what I'm thinking.
That's a director.
Not Marcus Nispel. Yes, I know that.
Pick a weekend that you're not going up against another horror convention. I think it's awesome that it's out on Long Island. Get some guests that will bring some people in. Have them do a panel. Get this one to do a panel Friday night. Get this other one to do a panel Saturday afternoon. Get the other one to do a panel, Sunday morning or whatever.
Marcus
You got
Slabine.
it. Who?
Marcus Slabine, the effects artist.
From what movie? From what project?
Stream and Terrifier.
Okay, gotcha.
The Last Call. He worked on Dark Knight Rises. Okay. He worked on
cool. But an average Joe is not going to know who that guy is. No. So, like I said, for me, it's like you got to bring some recognizable faces if you want your horror convention to be successful and have a good balance of indie people selling their stuff, maybe some indie people in panels, maybe screen a couple of independent horror shorts or films. You got to have a good balance. I think there is a
couple of shorts that they screened, but
but I'm saying just to kind of like, Monster Mania really focuses on all the and they lose Monster people Mania all the time.
Yes,
Monster on their
Mania
big names.
Focuses on
Chiller
exactly
Theater.
What you said, the big names.
Chiller Theater focuses on their big names. There's got to be a balance. I know New Jersey Horror Con, he kind of does a better job at that. But listen, Long Island Convention of Horror, see what happens. It was okay. It was like the market to me. It was just a little higher price ticket, which was kind of like, But, if they don't, not that it matters if I go, but if they don't kind of step it up either next year or later this year, I don't know when they're doing another one, you're going to get even less people the second time around. Because people went to this one, they weren't impressed by what you had to offer. They're not coming back. You might as well, literally, I thought the market in December, the Bazaar market, was cooler than the convention. So, unfortunately, that's kind of where I'm at. I wish them all the best. Long Island Horror Convention of Horror. You guys can do it. I believe in you. Get better. And yes, our trivia video will be up some point this week. If you're listening to this a few days later, it's probably up already. It's going to just be a silly, fun little 5-minute video of us testing people's horror trivia at the event. I always enjoy doing that. Manny and I did it last year at Chambers of Hell's Media Night. I thought I'd do it again at Long Island Convention of Horror. So keep an eye out for that and check it out. Let us know what you think. All right, Manny, moving on.
Into a commercial break.
Yes. All right, Manny, moving on. So we got one big movie we're going to discuss, but before we do that, I want to talk about some recently seen stuff here. One movie I missed last year that, I'll be honest, looking at the trailer, I wasn't rushing out to see it. I was like, this looks kind of silly. It looks like Lisa Frankenstein, but with a different type of monster. I wasn't impressed by what I was, seeing in the advertising. Your Monster. So they just put this up, I think, a month ago or so, like a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago. It might have been in January. I don't even know. It's already March.
I'm pretty sure it was January.
On Max, HBO. And I randomly put it on, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it's a horror comedy. I thought the execution was good. The whole concept of a girl going through, cancer treatment. She's diagnosed with cancer, and then her dealing with a breakup that also affects her career because she's supposed to be on this Broadway show, and then that kind of goes awry, and then her monster from her childhood comes back to kind of help her go through this dilemma in life, this kind of like quarter life crisis situation she's going to, and the whole allegory with kind of, standing up for yourself and, believing in yourself and not letting anyone walk all over you and treat you like shit. I thought they did a good job. I think it's Melissa Barrera's best performance. I loved her in Abigail. I think she's good in the Scream movies, but I still think I think this was her best performance. Like I still say this one. Like I watched Abigail afterwards again, like the same night.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I was like, I'm gonna watch Abigail because I hadn't only seen it. I only watched it the one time in theaters. And I think your monster's a better performance. She's great in that, but your monster is just kind of, there's more emotion, I feel, in it. It's not a very gory movie. Not a lot of horror, I'd say.
Until the end.
Until the very end, where it's kind of got a little, you know what it reminded me of? It's almost like if you combine Drop Dead Fred and Black Swan, but kind of swing it more in the comedy side of things. I dug it, man. I was like shocked. I was like, damn, I'm sad I didn't watch this last year. It would have definitely been on my top 10. It would have been an honorable mention. I really enjoyed it. I was shocked. I didn't think I would like it as much. I have to rewatch Lisa Frankenstein. I've only seen it one time, but I might have liked it more than Lisa Frankenstein. But again, I haven't revisited Lisa Frankenstein. I could see myself revisiting Your Monster. And I did like Lisa Frankenstein. Obviously, we talked about it on the show when it came out. So that's that. What'd you think of Your Monster? I don't know if you ever told me.
It wasn't bad. Wasn't crazy about it. I like Lisa Frankenstein better. I
could see you liking Lisa Frankenstein more.
Yeah. This was, I hated the ending. The very ending,
See,
I think ruined the whole movie.
Yeah.
Not like not like the bloody ending. The literal last 30 seconds.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't want to spoil it in case people haven't seen it.
I feel like it invalidated the entire film.
It's almost
all of it. I was like, well, what was the point of what we just watched? It felt like sometimes you watch those movies.
It was all a dream.
One of those. A dream.
Yeah,
yes. And that's what it felt like. All of a sudden, that's not what they did.
Yeah.
But it was that level of, well, then what was the point? And I also felt the love story with her and the monster was told in the wrong order. It felt like they jumbled things up, and by the time she had the relationship with her and the monster happened so quick. Like she was just they were dating, like almost immediately. She went from being horrified and scared to death with this thing to being in love with him like overnight, and then we go through a good section of the movie where she's conflicted on it. And it's like, no, you fell head over heels in love with him and then you question it. It felt like the love story was just told in the wrong order. They were doing the whole like trope romantic comedy deal. I get why they did it. They did it in a way where it's like, oh, this is the guy of my dreams, the monster, in reality. Yes.
Like, this is the guy that treats me good and supports me, but I can't get over the hot guy who, runs the show.
Yeah.
I get what they were going for. I don't know if I 100% agree with you. I think I think it plays into the ending, which is what you didn't like, hence why I think the whole thing just felt it negated it. I like the ending. Again, it's an allegory for more, obviously. And that's what I thought it was kind of smart, in my opinion. But I could see why someone hated it because of the whole, like, it was all a dream. The best way of not spoiling what happens in the end. So, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I dug it. I thought she was great. Like, I was like, wow, this is, like, the monologue scene, the singing parts.
It was good. I could have done without the song.
I kind of like it. I dug it. Now, you know me, I'm not a musical guy outside of like Rocky Horror.
Even Lynn didn't like it. We got to that point. Even she was like, "Oh, come on," and she liked it.
It reminded me a lot of Black Swan. Just there's no singing in Black Swan, but like the ending, kind of it all culminating in this performance, and then again, it represents something else. You could just tell, like you could tell Black Swan and like parts of Drop Dead Fred might have been an influence on this film.
Yeah.
I dug it, man. I enjoyed it.
There was a couple other movies I felt like, well, there's Pearl and there's this and it felt like just like a mashup of a bunch of recently popular movies. And I'm like, and I felt like all of them did it better. I still did like this. I'm not saying it's bad. I did enjoy it. It just, as a whole, it felt like a Frankensteining of a bunch of different movies and a bunch of other movies that all did it better. That's it.
It would have been
Good stuff.
I think it would have made it to my top 10. Dude, I was shocked at how much I enjoyed it. So after that ended, I was like, wow. I actually would watch this again. Honestly, I thought she was really good. That's kind of what, I wish the monster would have like maybe transformed. And I don't think this is spoiling too much. I wish he would have been scarier at points. Like, when he gets upset or something, make him look a little different.
Beginning, he was just
He's all soft and stuff towards the end of it.
Not even towards the end. After the first half hour, he suddenly becomes a sap, and I'm like, dude, you literally told her you were gonna eat her face
rip
off.
her throat out. Yeah,
yeah. Like, and then the next morning, you guys are watching rom-coms together. Like, oh, what happened? What happened to the 6 months of you guys together that should be in the middle?
Yeah,
literally went from I'm gonna eat your face off if you don't get out of the house.
There's no sense of time. I will agree with that. You can't tell how long.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And one last point, and we'll move on. But my one critique would be the cancer subplot kind of vanishes,
disappears,
and then comes back at the very end, and I'm like, okay. But I still I enjoyed it. I actually want to watch it again. I actually want to watch Lisa Frankenstein and Your Monster back to back and kind of better gauge which one I like more. But Your Monster, I really do. That was the one sleeper from last year that I was like, damn, I should have watched it to talk about it in our wrap up, because it probably would have been an honorable mention. That caught me by surprise. I didn't expect to like that. Another movie I caught up with from last year, I'm just catching up with shit because there's just movies I didn't get a chance to watch, was The Front Room. Now, this was last year, right?
Yes.
That's the Brandy.
Yep. It was early in the year. It was like January last year.
I'll be very honest.
And we missed it.
Watching the trailers, and we're not going to stay on this one too much because I don't want to completely slander this fucking movie. I had no interest. I thought it was interesting to cast Brandy in a role because, like, where the hell has Brandy been I
was interested for that.
I believe it's Robert Eggers' brother is involved. I think so. It's the brother that helped him write The Lighthouse.
Max Eggers, yes. Max and Sam Eggers.
I don't know who's. I think Sam Eggers is like a production designer, and I think they're also related.
They both co-directed.
So yeah, but I think Max is the one that helped him write The Lighthouse.
Oh, maybe.
I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong, sorry guys. I'm 99%. I'm 99% sure he's the one that helped him write The Lighthouse.
Max co-wrote The Lighthouse, and Sam co-wrote, as I have.
He was the production design on The Witch or something.
Olympia.
I have no idea what that is.
Olympia Dukakis behind the scenes thing.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
So I saw that. I dig Robert Eggers' stuff. This is his brother. I dug The Lighthouse. Very curious. I thought it was interesting to cast Brandy in a role. The trailers were heavily implying a Rosemary's Baby-esque situation in the film. The posters, the teaser trailer, the trailer, I was like, oh, this looks like a really overbearing satanic mother-in-law from hell, stepmother-in-law from hell that's gonna like possess your child.
And that's like maybe 10% of the movie.
That's about 5% of the
You got about 10%.
I think you're
10% of your description is in the movie, is what I'm saying. Because there's none of the rest
I think you're giving it a little bit more credit than that. Because
the overbearing mother, that's about it.
That's
the
about
rest of it, nope.
Hey, to sum up this movie in a couple of sentences, it's basically a really shitty, hyper-religious.
Brandy realizes her mother-in-law is a racist piece of
shit.
A
racist.
She has to be her wet nurse.
It's like she basically becomes her slave in the film.
Yeah.
Because she's this old, like 90-year-old lady who is
Daughters of the Confederacy.
Yeah, she's the daughter of so Confederates. Like
she's a member of the Daughters of the Confederacy.
And the whole film is her shitting herself, shitting all over the place, and screaming, literally, help me! Help me! several times. Literally,
Help me.
there's a scene in the film. But what's funny about the movie,
Linda, help me.
what's funny about the movie is they make her. There's a scene, and I'll be honest, I was falling asleep in the final act. There's a scene in the front room where Brandy like enters the hallway, and you hear "Help Me" from the room. There's like a crack open. There's like this sinister music. Light from the bedroom is coming in, and there's just shit smeared all over the walls, and she's just screaming, "Help me!" And that is as horrific as this film gets. There is no supernatural elements. There's it's bizarre.
This movie is so. There's a point where she realizes.
Help me.
Where they all realize that the grandmother can walk and she's totally fine and she's faking it.
Yeah, she's just being she's being a shithead, literally, to Brandy.
And there's another 45 minutes to go.
Yes.
They continue taking care of her for at least another 20 minutes. We know she's faking, but we keep taking care of her.
She's just an old lady.
That's it. I feel like there was a point in production where they decided this is going to be a comedy. Because there's quite a few scenes, like the "help me" just got so. It's like, okay, I feel like they're trying to make this
Dude,
funny.
that's all I took from the movie. The shitting. There's literally.
I really do. I think that there was a point where they started to just be like, we got to make this funny, and then they stopped, and then the editor was not clued into this either. You know, some of it was totally played comedically, and the rest is not. So when you get to those points, you're just like, what the hell is going on here? Brandy tried her best, but this.
I mean, she was pretty good at it.
Garbage.
She was decent at it. Yeah.
No, dude, I don't mean that in a bad. Just she tried her best with a terrible script.
There's a scene where her name is Solange, and I will admit she is good in it. She plays it to a T. Yeah. And you know what I learned?
You hate the shit out of her, too.
She is 67 years old, but she looks like she's 90. It's great. The makeup effects, her performance. You would think she's this really old lady. There's a scene where I think it's implied she's faking that Brandy hit her to the ground or she fell or something. And her stepson comes in, and, she's trying to trick the stepson into like, oh, your wife's a bitch. And she's on the floor, bent over. And she's, help me. She pushed me. Help me. And she rips ass like literally.
That's what I'm saying. I really think some
in
of this was
Brandy's face. And I'm there and I'm like, she just farts in Brandy's face. And I'm like, what is this movie? It is not what the marketing did this movie
even on Letterboxd it's listed as comedy, thriller, horror. Comedy first.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be it is not funny.
The amount of shit, fart, and help me is basically what happens. I could tell they're going for like the Hitchcock. You could just tell with the music, the score, and all that. Yes. I get it. They were going for like a Hitchcockian thriller.
Fail.
Yeah. The movie looks nice. The performances are pretty good, but it's tonally kind of all over the place. And I just don't know what they were thinking. I would have never known this would have been Poop the movie. If I would have dude, there's lots of bodily fluids.
There was
literally smeared.
They all mentioned the same thing.
Smeared all over the walls. So yeah, the front room. Watch at your own risk, at your own discretion. Help me. Help me. I think that was my Letterboxd review. Help me. And then a poop emoji. That was my review on Letterboxd. One more movie, because I know you don't have many kind of recently seen.
I pulled up 2 or 3. I had one that I was going to talk about, but I was like, you know what? It's a whole series. I think we'll just wait and we'll do that another time. But I have some others.
One more movie, and I revisited this one because there's a new one coming out this summer, and I hadn't watched one of these, like sat. They play them on AMC every Halloween on Fear Fest. I haven't sat and watched one because I'll be honest, I'm not like a huge fan of the franchise because I think the last couple of installments have been like horrendously bad. Final Destination 3. Now, I have not watched this in probably over a decade.
I don't know if I've ever seen it. I
And
don't think I've ever seen past the second one.
I will, besides I like the first three.
Well, the first one is the
plane
airplane.
crash.
The second one's the roller coaster.
No,
right?
the second one's the highway crash.
highway.
The third one is the roller coaster.
So I have seen at least parts of the roller coaster. Okay.
So Final Destination 3, again, it probably has been like 12, 13 years since I've sat and watched it. I revisited it. It was on HBO as well. It came up like, when movies just pop up, like you might like, and it was there. And I was like, you know what? I haven't watched this in a long time. Like I'm really familiar with the first one, parts of the second one. I said, let me watch the third one because I remember that one being my favorite because I'm a theme park enthusiast. And as weird as that sounds, I actually get a kick out of like the roller coaster accident and the way they set up the whole attraction with like the devil's face on the outside.
Thing. Mario loves roller coasters.
Yeah,
like,
it's like me.
obsessed with roller coasters.
I love amusement. You know me. I love using Universal Studios and rides. I've talked about it on the show. Yeah. So that's why I've always loved it. And it's just it's a ridiculous movie. And revisiting it, I was like, yep, this is my favorite one. This is the one that has the goth kids in it that are like, oh, they don't believe them. And it's the actor from Ginger Snaps and from My Little Lie, Chris Lemch, I think is how you
Chris
pronounce
Lemke, yeah.
Lemke. He's in it as one of the goth kids, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead's the lead. It's such a stupid movie.
Oh, I forgot she.
Yeah, she's the main character.
I love her.
She's great, and she's great in it. It's such a product of like 2006. The outfits, the wardrobes, everyone, like the wardrobe, the makeup, the soundtrack, the goth kids, like everything about it is a time capsule of 06, 05 or whenever it came. I think it's 06 when this came out. And it was just a fun revisit. Like once it ended, I was like, wow, that's just a fun movie. It knows what it, at that point, the franchise knew what it was. But then I remember like after that was like a NASCAR act. It just got really bad. The movies started to look really cheap. So I think this was the last one that was really kind of cool and that roller coaster accident is great. It's so ridiculous, but it's great. The tanning bed. Yes,
okay. I remember that.
The sun. What is it called? It's a sunbathing.
The tanning bed.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a tanning bed. Yeah.
That scene with Roller Coaster of Love. That song is playing, and
I totally have seen this.
The two bimbo girls, and it made me want to go back and watch the first two because it's been a while. But I'm mostly familiar with the first one. It's just great, dude. It was a fun revisit, and I was just like, all right, cool. I will complain that new trailer for the new one spoils an entire death scene with like a tattoo artist or something and a piercing. I was like, why show the whole scene?
I haven't seen the trailer.
I don't know. I think the series kind of jumped the shark after the third one at this point. But that was a fun revisit. I'd recommend, Manny, go through them. I think it'd just be fun. Watch the first three at least. I think after that, they're really garbage.
I actually think I have like a DVD that has like the first 5 or so.
Yeah. First three are good.
Like one of those bargain $20 DVDs of 5 movies. I think I have that.
I'm laughing too. I'm like, the Final Destination franchise is the only franchise that will make a drive-through at a fast food restaurant. The most dead. This is how do you make a drive-through? Dude, literally one of the characters is killed at a drive-through. It's ridiculous. But I felt like that's when it became self-aware, but then it became too self-aware, and that's why the later sequels were just really shitty and kind of, I don't know, just not. They just didn't look like good. They didn't even look nice. Like this was the last one that kind of cinematography-wise I felt looked good. And even the train derailment at the end of Final Destination 3 is so good. It's like just the way they did it and the music. She hears that familiar song that plays. It's great, man. It's my favorite one. I will say that it's my favorite Final. I can confirm it is. It probably would go 3, number 1, then 2, and all the other sequels I've only seen once, so I would have to go back. I may go back and just watch all of them before the new one comes out of morbid curiosity, but yeah, man, I'd recommend it because I know you and I have never been Final Destination guys, so it's like Even me, I was like,
It
I
feels
never.
repetitive to keep doing this, you know, like it feels like the
Yeah.
type of thing where you can get a bunch of cool, it's like Saw, you can get a bunch of cool deaths and all that and everything, but you're not getting anything new out of the
No,
movie,
no,
you know?
no. You're gonna get. It's like
Yeah.
how creative
It's
can you
like
get with
if
the
you really
kills?
liked the first one, here you get the same here, there's
Yeah.
more of the same.
I mean,
So
my issue is they just got really cheap looking as they went on, where it's like the
yeah,
production, you could just
they're just
tell.
cranking them out for the
They,
sake of
yeah, it's even Friday
yeah.
the 13th tried to put a little bit of effort when they got to like part 8. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
even that tried.
We just kept getting bigger. Yeah. They
Yeah,
were
it's like
putting more money into it, making it bigger and
yeah.
better looking. Yeah.
By
They
the
were
last
trying.
Final Destination film, it's like I think the
We could do
last
this
one.
you could do this in a living room.
I think from what I remember, the last Final Destination film, the coolest thing about it, I think it was a bridge collapse. The coolest thing about it was a prequel to the first movie. So it ends with
Huh.
the survivors of spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, Manny.
Uh,
And I know you don't give a shit.
by the time I do, I will forget about
Yes.
it and be like, oh, that's what he meant.
That's what he meant. So
That's kind of cool
the
though.
main protagonist in the last one
Hmm.
survive the ordeal, but then end up on the plane
Oh,
from
the
the
plane killed
first
her.
movie.
Okay. That's
So
cool.
that was like that's
That
all
gives
I
me
remember.
reason to want to watch it.
Yes.
Like that's why I when I have people tell me about things where I'm not interested. I'm like, give me spoilers. That might actually give me a reason to want to
Make me
watch it. That
interested.
makes me want. I'm like, okay, that's interesting to
Yeah.
see.
I
You
mean,
know?
I remember the rest of the movie being shit, but I remember
Yeah.
thinking
But
that
that
was cool. I was like, oh,
that is
because you don't
cool.
expect it. You're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
they're on the plane
Hmm.
with like they see Devin Sawa like
Yeah.
freaking out. Everyone get off the
Freaking out from
plane
the. That's cool.
because he got yeah. So that's what I remember most about the last one, but I remember the rest of it just being like a complete turd. So I just didn't think it was that good. But part 3 was a fun rewatch. I still my favorite one. I'm curious about this new one. You know, I think Chris was telling me that this new one's
I don't
about.
know
I think it's like a
anything
group
about it.
of. I think what happens is a like a building collapse. He was telling me, and then the ancestors or the great grandparents survive, and their grandchildren now are being chased by death. Something like
Mm.
that. He was telling me. I don't even know. But yeah, no, it's they're stupid movies, but part 3's the best in my opinion. So I'm curious
Okay.
where the new one goes, but we'll see what happens. Lauren says, haha, I feel the same way. When people give me spoilers, it makes me interested enough to watch. There you go.
Sometimes it does, you
It
know.
does.
So I wasn't planning before, but now it's like, you know what? That sounds kind. I'd watch it just for that moment, you know.
Just for that the last 5 minutes of the movie. All right, Manny, before we jump into the monkey, is there any other recently seen stuff you want to talk about?
I have two that I've like. I don't know. Did we talk about Lovely, Dark, and Deep? I don't
I
remember.
don't think we did. I've never seen it, so
The
don't spoil
Georgina
it too
Cam.
much.
No, it's a Georgina Campbell movie. I really, really enjoyed this a lot. It's from 2023.
Okay.
She plays a park ranger. She's just starting the new job. So she's a park ranger that watches for fires and stuff. So she sits up in the perch, you know. That's her job, like that Angelina Jolie movie.
Mm-hmm.
But she's actually a park ranger, not just a fire thing. But and it's kind of got this isolationism to it, and there's a weird supernatural force in the woods. You know, reviews aren't great, but I really liked it. I think there was something to it. Um, Part of me really you watched the what was that series? Channel Zero,
Yeah, I did. That was
right?
good.
Remember the one with the staircase in the woods?
Yeah, that was sick.
It has that kind of feeling. The staircase in the woods. These are all no sleep stories,
Yeah.
you know. And you know I love no sleep.
Yeah.
So anyone who likes no sleep, this is somewhere between the Search and Rescue series and the Goat Valley Campground series.
Ah, okay.
So the of no sleep, it's somewhere along the lines where there's something weird happening in the woods, and you know, I guess I don't want to spoil it because I think it's a really, really
Is it
good
streaming
movie.
anywhere?
What did I watch this on?
Shutter?
Hulu.
Hulu. Okay,
I watched
cool.
it on Hulu. And Georgina Campbell's great. I think she's a really good actress who just doesn't work enough. You know, I like her. She was in Barbarian. She's
Yeah.
in Watchers. You know, I think she's great. So I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to spoil it because it's a weird movie and it's got some trippy things to it. And there's a little secret and there's some history to her to her character. But I think it's a really cool film. So it's got that feeling of, what was the police station movie that they just remade. Terrible.
The Last Shift.
Last Shift.
Last Shift, or yeah.
Yes, Last Shift was the original.
That remake was so bad.
Terrible.
Let's move on from that.
But the original is excellent.
Yeah, the original is dope as hell. Yeah, I love it. I've watched that several times. That's a really good movie.
Exactly. So take the feeling of that.
Channel Zero.
The feeling of that, cross it with Channel Zero in the woods.
You had me at Channel Zero because that's an underrated show. I mean, I could talk about that forever. I won't. But Channel Zero was... they could have continued. I thought there were parts of that were better than American Horror Story since every season was a different story. I was so bummed when they got rid of that. What was it, 4 or 5 seasons only? I mean, that was a really good
4.
Yeah, that was a really good. That was a really good show, man. It sucks that they stopped producing. I think that whole series is on Shudder right now. You can watch the whole thing. I'd recommend anyone to watch Channel Zero from the beginning. It was so good. What's your next recently?
The other one is, it's not a horror movie, it's a comedy.
Oh.
But it stars. You ready for this?
Yes. Let's hear it.
This has Judy Greer.
Okay.
Aubrey Plaza.
Okay.
Natasha Lyonne.
Okay.
Molly Shannon.
Whoa.
Clea Duvall.
Wow.
Ron Livingston.
Okay.
Fred Armisen.
Jesus.
Malcolm Barrett. Maria Olsen.
You had me at like the first 4 names. So
and it just keeps going.
Okay.
It is a comedy where Judy Greer and
She's
Natasha
awesome.
Lyonne, yes, and Natasha Lyonne play sisters. Judy Greer she's a recovering sex addict.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. And Natasha Lyonne is her, I wouldn't say straight-laced, but she's got her shit together sister. And now that Judy Greer has just gotten out of jail for something that she did, I don't actually recall what it was, but because of the fact that it was sex addict related, she now has to be registered as a sex offender.
God.
She was like arrested for being somewhere, like where she shouldn't have. Yeah, but because she was having sex there, and that's part of the charge, she has to be registered as a sex offender. I think that's
like a real thing if you get caught doing that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she does, and how Judy Greer just upends Natasha Lyonne's life. Okay, Natasha Lyonne and Natasha Lyonne's gay in the film, and one of the love interests is
Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza. Clea Duvall is, and they all pop in and out. Like, it seems like they started making a movie and they just called all their friends, hey, come on down for a day and do a scene. Hey, Fred Armisen is like her co-worker. He's
great. Yeah.
But Natasha Lyonne gets Judy Greer a job working at the hotel as a maid with her. And Judy Greer, sex addict, can't stop sleeping around. One of the guys she sleeps with dies.
Oh.
And now we got to hide the body.
Oh, damn. I got to watch this.
It's one of those
I might watch
movies.
this tonight.
Yes.
That sounds amazing.
It's absolutely hilarious.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely hilarious. It's got
like Very Bad Things kind of vibes to it.
100%.
Yeah, so.
100%. That's
Drop
Dead
movie.
Gorgeous.
Drop Dead Gorgeous, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Totally one of those kinds of movies. Absolutely loved it. And again, the cast is phenomenal.
Yeah. Just from what you're telling me, I'm like, damn, this sounds right up my alley. I gotta give this a watch.
If you look up the poster art, it's the 3 of them. It's Judy Greer, it's the 3 of them, and there's a garbage can next to them with a foot and a hand sticking out of it.
What's this streaming on? Would you watch this?
I think I watched it on Peacock or
cool.
Or Hulu. Yeah, one of those
them.
two.
I'll look it up.
Usually I put it in the review, but I actually didn't tag it this. Let me see. It's on Freevee.
Oh, so you can watch it with ads.
Yes, it's on Peacock. Okay. It's on Tubi.
All right, cool.
And it's on Prime.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch. This sounds. That sounds like a really fun movie. So
from 2015, no less.
Wow. Yeah. 10 years ago at this point now. I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah, so it's not a horror film, but horror fans will like
horror
it because
adjacent.
it's about a dead body and them trying to hide it. It's a very morbid sense of humor.
Yeah. Sounds good. That sounds like that I'm gonna watch. I'll probably put that on tonight.
Yeah, you're gonna like it. I'm
So
thinking Andrea's gonna love it too.
yeah. So that sounds like
I watched it randomly one night, and I'm gonna have to watch it again because I know that Lynn's gonna love it too. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to put it on for her.
that sounds like a with the wife movie.
100%. Yes.
So, all right. So to finally wrap up the show here, talk about the most recent big horror film release, The Monkey. Gonna do our best to not. We're gonna spoil. I'm gonna put spoiler witch. Spoiler witch. Once again.
For people who pop in and about for people who pop in 3 minutes and miss the spoiler witch, tough shit.
Yeah, sorry guys. I wanted to talk about it. We'll do our best to not spoil everything. We're trying to get better at that, guys. We're realizing.
Monkey.
Yeah, you should have
brought
brought
the
your
monkey
monkey.
with
I wanted to talk about that briefly here. We won't go
You
on
didn't
too
get a
long.
monkey?
So
You didn't get the monkey?
I didn't get the monkey. I have no space right now to get the monkey. I didn't want to get the
Pee
monkey.
Wee Herman on a lower shelf there. Put the
Dude, I
monkey
got two of them back there. I got two
Oh.
popcorn buckets. I can't move Pee Wee. Yes, The Monkey, Oz Perkins' latest horror film. He's on a roll right now. He's got another movie coming out later this year, which we'll talk about in a sec as well. Because I loved how they did that. That actually has got me more intrigued than The Monkey itself. I was impressed because he literally released 2 movies everyone's talking about in less than a year. He's got 3 movies coming out in 2 years. So he's kind of going the like
Getting busy.
Pearl route where he's just Neon is like, okay, we had a big hit with you. Well, with Long Legs, got The Monkey now, which also made money. And then he's got his latest film coming out, I think in the summer or I think maybe fall, Keeper, which fucking that we'll talk about that. I was excited to watch this. Besides the monkey popcorn bucket that I know everyone was going wild for. I know Manny, you were on the hunt for it before. You saw this a little earlier, and they didn't have the popcorn buckets when you went.
And they said that they would, and that bothered me.
They fucking played you, buddy.
They said they would have it.
Yeah, I know you really wanted that popcorn bucket. They are selling the monkey now for $125. Did you see that? A replica of the actual, like the fuzzy, like life size, like the actual replica of it from the movie. I know everyone was going crazy with the popcorn bucket. I was excited to watch this because we already talked about our favorite films from last year. This Long Legs was in my top 5 films. I think it was my favorite. Yeah, it was my favorite. It was my number 1 from last year film. So I was really excited to see where he was going to go with this Stephen King short story and what he was going to do with it. Speaking of Final Destination, the trailers to this gave me a lot of vibes, like people being killed in grotesque ways out of nowhere due to this cursed, monkey, cursed object, which I know you're a big fan of cursed object movies. We've talked about that on the show as well. So I'm sure you were excited with that
I gotta
concept.
be honest, I was so kind of let down by Long Legs. I was like, all right, I got to tamper some expectations on this because I thought Long Legs was going to be amazing, and it kind of is a little boring to me. So I was like, okay, I can't walk in thinking this is going to be great because otherwise I'm gonna, because I had high expectations for Long Legs and it didn't meet it. So I didn't want to ruin this for myself. So I saw the first trailer of the lady with her face getting caught on fire. And I did not see anything else. I purposely avoided anything else. Like, okay, this could be cool, this could be fun, and just leave it at that. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Now I think I'm the opposite of you. I think I overhyped myself because I loved Long Legs so much. I've watched Long Legs twice since it's been on Hulu because I really love that movie. In the last 2 weeks, I think I've watched it twice. I've put it on twice. Watched it one time again, then just had it on while I was editing or something. So I was super hyped for this because of Long Legs. Like I was like, I can't wait to see the monkey. Oz Perkins is my dude right now. Like I'm stoked for his stuff. I dug the premise when I saw the trailer and I read a synopsis. I was sold with that alone. The Stephen King, based on a Stephen King novel, that's always, a plus because obviously his stuff is usually, I wouldn't say all of his adaptations are top tier, but for the most part, most of the films are going to be entertaining at least.
Yes.
And I did read that it was a horror comedy, which I like a good horror comedy.
I did not read that it was a comedy.
Oh, look, Lauren, I was so disappointed by Longlegs. You're in Manny camp. You can stay with Manny over there. And you guys can hang out in the I don't love Longlegs group. I love Longlegs. So I was, I thought it was cool, horror comedy. Oz Perkins, as an actor, he's done a lot of comedy stuff.
Oh,
so,
I loved that he was in it. I didn't even know he was going to be in it.
That caught me off guard. Now, the whole plot of, a father abandoning his family and leaving them this cursed monkey that just kills people anytime they wind it up. It seems very Tales from the Crypt. It seems like something you'd watch on a show like that, like Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, Monsters, etc. So I was like, that's a plus too. It just had like that vibe. Now, I don't want to be negative here.
But you're going to be. So.
No, I'm not. Because I didn't hate Monkey. I didn't hate the monkey. I feel the same way I felt after leaving Maxine. I have to watch it again. There was a lot of stuff I loved. I thought the humor, fantastic.
Yeah. Dude,
there is a scene. They foreshadow it several times with the fucking cheerleaders in the school bus and then them all getting decapitated. I was like, I was waiting for something to happen because they showed them a couple times early in the film. And I was like, them getting all their heads chopped off at once.
They did it in LA. Did you see that?
I saw that
That's
they had
hilarious.
That is so funny. The death of the hibachi death with the babysitter. The Oz Perkins playing their like sex crazed uncle and then him being trampled by horses. Dude, he came out with like the sideburns, the glass. It was amazing. And I said this to the wife after we left. I said every side character, Adam Scott as their father, because the movie goes back and forth between when they were kids to when they're adults. Adam Scott playing their father was great. He's got like one scene in the whole movie in the very beginning, and it's amazing. Every character feels like it was pulled out of Anchorman. Every single one of those side characters, in my opinion, were pulled. And I love Anchorman 1 and 2. They're not, I wouldn't say guilty pleasures. They're actually funny movies, but they feel like they'd be up there with Ron Burgundy. Like they feel
they're just ridiculous.
They're just over the top characters.
Yes.
And that was sort of my issue with the movie. It tries to have a heart at times. And I think, what's her name? Tatiana Maslany as the mom. She's great.
She was great.
She's fantastic. But there's moments where they're trying to have this like emotional arc and obviously grief and death, etc. But then you got Oz Perkins showing up with fucking giant sideburns, getting trampled by a horse, and like it's all done in fantastic edit. Dude, the edit of I forget what happens. There's like an edit in the film where it's him. They're like, oh, let's wind it up and see who dies next. And then it just cuts to a picture of him at his funeral.
Great.
That's a great editing gag. It's fantastic. Yes. But that's what was weird to me. It was like, okay, you got this. All that stuff was amazing. And then they became adults. And then the older Theo James is the lead. His character, he plays a set of twins. The character with the son, that felt so undercooked. I did not care. I was like, let's get to more of these ridiculous side characters, and that's kind of what I'm on I think that's where I'm on the fence. I'll say this: I definitely like this more than Maxine, but I need to watch it again. I think I'm gonna like it more the second time. You know, when you watch a movie in the theater, it's like. Certain moments stand out to you and you kind of forget about little subtle things that happen. I think this movie has a lot of subtlety. There's a lot of little like small details that you probably miss on a first viewing. I thought the gore effects were great. The comedy landed. It was just that. He's good in it. Specifically as like I thought he was better as like the psychotic brother that's obsessed with the
Oh yeah. Well,
obsessed.
I think that the psychotic brother had more to do.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
That the
This one,
whole
he's the
son
very
thing felt so like I didn't
It
care.
it felt a little shoehorned in, but I get it because
I know
it was
why
like
they did it. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, the father left them so it's kind of like
Yeah.
we need to have the story where he's going to do everything he can to protect his son, or like one of them is much like the father who just left and the other one is very protective. I totally get it. But it did feel like an afterthought almost.
And I think a lot of that has to do with every side character.
Being so
Dude, Elijah Wood in that one scene.
Where did he come from?
He comes out of nowhere and he's like this dad guru who writes books about being a great dad. And he's like, I'm taking your energy.
He's just the worst person. He's
drinking. Dude, he's got the giant bottle of water that he takes.
Oh my God, 3 gallons of water.
And he's
like
wearing
gargling.
He's wearing like the spandex like shirt. It's such a great scene. And then Oz Perkins and
everybody had so much fun making it. Just like, how much more ridiculous can we go?
Every side character is great. It's just I thought the leads were kind of weak. I think him as the serious brother, the one that wants to stay away from the monkey. Mm-hmm. The crazy brother was great because he kind of blended in with the rest of the supporting cast. So for me, that was just kind of my biggest issue with it. Was just like didn't care. I didn't care. I have to watch it again. I'm gonna watch it once it's streaming somewhere. I just felt like I didn't. He was good. His accent kind of slipped through. I didn't even realize he was until after. I was like, no wonder he sounded a little weird at times. He had like a weird accent, but he was trying to hide his real accent. I just didn't care. Dude, that one scene where the woman jumps into the pool and just explodes.
Oh my God.
All those scenes were amazing.
I wasn't expecting an explosion.
she just blows up. Even the realtor, the one that's showing the house.
I know. Oh my God.
Like, it's such a great performance. She just gets shot and explode. Everyone explodes in The Monkey. But like even her hitting on him, she's like a sleazy realtor. So good. Every side character was great and has their moment to shine. Mm-hmm. Just the main protagonist was kind of, and I guess antagonist because the other brother too is the evil twin. I'll say, it just kind of weak. It was weak. That's kind of basically my thoughts on the film. It was fun, good gore effects, weak lead, great supporting characters, beautiful looking movie, but that's to be expected. It's Oz Perkins. He's going to make it's going to be a good looking and sounding movie. Great soundtrack, a lot of great songs on it.
Yes.
Like great cinematography, great edit. I think the editing in this is better than, and that's just the filmmaker in me, the editing in this was better than Longlegs. And you guys all know I love Longlegs. I just thought that was one of his editor on point. It's two people here. I'm looking Greg NG and Graham 14. Whatever, but it was a like tremendously edited film in my opinion. But yeah, what did you think, Manny?
I loved it.
Yeah, I know you told me that.
I loved it. Yeah, I thought like so far this is my favorite movie of the year. Even just a bit more than Companion,
which I haven't seen yet. Which I think I'm gonna like a lot more.
Companion is excellent. Yeah, Companion's excellent. Just a bit more, but that's one of those, recency bias.
Yeah,
I saw it more recently, so I'm so it's like when I watch Monkey and Companion again, but they're very, very close in my for my favorites of the year so far. I thought the pacing was excellent.
That's what I'm saying. The editing, the editing was fantastic.
The pace was great. Everything you said, excellent. I thought it was hilarious.
It's a gross movie too.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite of his, and again, it could be recency bias, but it's also because it's so different from everything. All his other films are very long legs. Gretel and Hansel, they all have that same style, the visual style, the pacing, the slow brooding. They all have that feel, and this is so different from
It's a
all of them.
very different. Like it's
Yes,
crazy to
for
think
him,
that the same
this.
dude made Long Legs, but he's going back to that
This
style.
is
You
more
could tell for
that
his
Dead
next
and
movie.
Breakfast stuff. This
Yes.
is more like Dead and Breakfast, which he didn't direct, but he made that movie.
Yeah, this movie is going to age gracefully, I have a feeling.
Yes.
It's going to be one of those movies in 15, 20 years
It's still going to be.
people are going to love it more. I think people are
This
going to love it
was.
more as it goes on.
I think so. I
Yeah.
totally think so. This was like it had the look and feel of Malignant, which I still love.
Underrated.
You know,
I don't care what anyone says.
very
Yeah, I love
extremely.
that movie.
Malignant to me is like a lost Toby Hooper film. Toby Hooper with the toolbox murders, that early 90s, early 2000s style that he was doing.
Even Fulci a little bit. Kind of
little
that
bit of
house by the
Fulci.
cemetery, kind of weird
Yes.
mongoloid creature.
Oh, because it's
killing
totally a
people.
giallo
Yeah,
film.
100%.
Yes, totally
Yeah.
giallo. So it's Malignant with the set in the universe of Final Destination.
Yeah.
It really is. That's what this felt like through the whole. I'm like, it's Final Destination but I feel like Final Destination sometimes really twists itself in a pretzel to make the death happen. Oh, we want to do this. How can we make it happen? And you're just like, oh, come on.
Well, yeah, because you have like the
Some of
water hits the
Yeah.
knocks over the bed and knocks over
like
a shelf and
exactly.
yeah.
There's moments in Final Destination where like the water is moving in an unnatural way. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, it can't go. Water doesn't go.
It's silly. But I think the problem with Final Destination is at times it takes itself too serious. This does not.
This doesn't. This said this is going to be ridiculous. She fell through the stairs. She lands in a box of fishing hooks. Like, come on.
Yeah.
What are the chances of all the things? Like, who has an entire box of fish hooks under their stairs? And then they all stick in her face.
Yeah.
They didn't do like I said, Final Destination, like the water goes uphill and things move that don't normally move. They didn't do that in this. They just said, well, that's unlikely, but possible.
Dude, she falls on fish hooks.
Yeah.
She's on fire, I think. Runs out the house and then lands in like the mailbox and like impales herself.
She lands in the fish hook. She gets out. She's pulling the fish hooks out. She realizes for whatever, she had like a tea kettle on and the fire blew out. So she puts her face down to look at it, and it turns itself and like the igniter, the pilot light goes back on. Yeah, the pilot light goes back on and sets her face on fire, and she runs out the house, and then there's a for sale sign that she runs straight into.
That's so stupid.
So it's like extremely
self-aware,
unlikely, but possible. Final Destination did things. It's like, that's not even possible.
Yeah.
Like what always bothered me, Final Destination created the trope of the person stepping into the street and then boom comes, something hits them. And it's like, where did that bus come from? The bus is 1,000 decibels.
No one heard it
How
coming.
Did you not? Exactly. No one heard it coming. Not to mention the fact that she was standing in the street for about 10 seconds before the bus hit her. Bus had plenty of time to go around her. And they did things like that, where it's like, you just did it for the shot.
Yeah. This is a little more self-aware. It knows, like that one shot of Oz Perkins' like the uncle character dying.
Mm-hmm.
It knows, like, okay, we're gonna test this out. Who's gonna die? His character gets trampled by horses while sleeping, and turned to mush, and you see it. It's disgusting. Yeah, dude. I mean, it was a cool movie. I enjoyed it. I was laughing like the whole time. I wish it would have eased up maybe on the whole kind of when it got like the tone, I just feel tonally at times when it did go back to that plot with the son. I was kind of like, all right.
Yeah, it didn't. You know what though?
I think it has one of the strongest starts. Like that first half hour when they're kids and you learn about the monkey and their dad and all that.
I'll tell you, Stephen King writes kids very well.
Yeah.
He really knows how to write that feeling of childhood and something in your childhood that scares you into being an adult. I mean, everybody agrees the first half of it is great. The second half in both versions.
Yeah, it fizzles out a bit.
That's how it is. That he's very good at creating the feeling of being a child who's afraid of something that you don't understand. He's very good at that. So it doesn't surprise me that the kids section was that the kids
Yeah.
portion was better than.
In my
There's no
opinion,
surprise there.
like that first
No,
half hour, 45 minutes, I thought was the
very Stephen
strongest
King.
aspect of it. So I'm saying, like, once he becomes an adult, it takes itself
Yeah.
a little, that's when it tries to take itself too serious, I feel. And
Mhm.
then that's kind of where I was like, this is kind of losing me until something ridiculous happens and I'm entertained again. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like the
Even
dramatic portions to me were kind of
yeah,
just dull and didn't really, just tonally, it felt a little out of place. But
it had a feeling by the end. There's that weird Corey Feldman movie from the early 2000s where he's like, well, not
I
even
can't
I
even
don't even think it
think.
was that old, where he's on the TV.
Doesn't ring
It's
a
just
bell at
weird,
all.
and it had that weird. It was a terrible movie, but it kind of felt like that. It's terrible. No, it's absolutely terrible. I can't remember. But it's a Corey Feldman horror movie that I saw a long time ago, and it looked even like that. Like it reminded me of it. I was like, it's Corey Feldman because Elijah Wood showed all the random
Yeah.
cameos. I was expecting Corey Feldman to show up just because
Just
of
pop
that.
in there.
Yeah, just because of that room he had with the monkey on top of it. It reminded me of that movie.
I gotta watch it again. I mean, I didn't hate it. It wasn't like I didn't leave like, oh, I hated that movie. I just have to watch it again. I feel like it's better on a second. I think it's gonna be better on a second viewing. Whereas like Maxine last year, on a second viewing, I still wasn't very like invested in where it went. So that's
Mhm.
why I was disappointed with it last year. This I don't think I'll be like. This is a fun movie. That's the
Yes.
best way to describe it. It's a fun movie. Uh, Maybe the second time I watch it, I'll just try to kind of ignore my feelings towards like the script and that aspect of it with his son and wanting to win over, not lose his son and all that kind of was like, all right, guys, where are you going with this? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, where's this going? Outside of that though, I thought the rest of it, I'd say about 85% of the movie is very entertaining. So I dug it. Did you stay
Splatter.
for the after post credit trailer?
No, I did not.
So I am
Okay, that's
shocked.
why I missed it.
That's why you missed it. So uh I forget how I found out. I think it
No,
was
they
on
were fucking cleaning everything already. They would
no,
push, and I was like, we just got up
dude.
in line.
It might be on YouTube now if you check it out. So you gotta watch it later. But so after the movie ended, there was a
Hmm.
teaser for Oz Perkins' next movie.
Huh.
And I will say it was one of the eeriest. Like, I was like, I don't know what. Tatiana Maslany. I can't pronounce.
She's in it
What's
as
her
well.
last name?
Yes.
Maslany.
Maslany.
Maslany. She's in it, and I was reading about it. He shot it during the strike in I think Canada. He had a
Hmm.
non-union writer write the script.
Okay.
He did it during that whole strike that was happening last year. Um, Dude, watch the teaser. There's something eerie about it. Kind of long legs where you're just like, what is this movie? It's called Keeper. What is this movie going to be about? It looks eerie. You see like women
Hmm.
from different eras, the 80s, the 1800s, and it looks the 90s, early 2000s, I think. It's like different women from different decades. It looks creepy. Just the way it was edited together, the music. I'm like, wow,
Hmm.
what is this movie? Like, it got me excited to see that. I was like, all right, we got the
Okay.
monkey out of the way. Let's see what.
Scheduled for October. It
Oh, so
says.
there you go, around Halloween. So
October 3rd.
there you
Yeah.
go. So early October, perfect spooky season movie. I'm excited, dude. I was like, wow, this guy's killing it. In less than 2 years, 3 films. Neon loves him.
Yeah.
They're like, we're giving you all the here's money. Successful horror films. I mean, this dude hasn't made a movie since Longlegs. It was a couple years he hadn't made. Now he's got 3
Yeah.
in a year and a half span. So it's pretty sick. The trailer looks good. I was like shocked. It's kind of like what they did with X and Pearl and then Maxine, where at the end credits there was a teaser for the next film from the
Hmm.
filmmaker, which I'm a fan of that. I'm digging these filmmakers getting kind of these contracts where they already can make another picture and they're just making another
I'm
movie. It's kind of
yeah.
sick. It's kind of cool. They're living the dream, man. I'm sure they're loving it. I'm sure for them it's a great kind of gig for a production company to be like, all right, we love what you're doing. Here's some more money. Make another movie. So and
Yeah.
if they're
Right.
if it's successful, which the monkey is, and Longlegs obviously was. So yeah, man, watch that trailer. It looks cool.
I'm trying to find it. I can't
It
find
might not be online yet. It was really
No,
cool. I'm shocked you didn't stay,
can't
but if
find
they
it.
were kicking you out of the theater, then yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah.
So I was really looking. I'm looking forward to what this guy has to do. He's a great filmmaker, man. He's got a good eye. It looks great. The acting's great. The stories are great. He's become my my favorite kind of contemporary filmmaker in the last couple of years.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think he's crushing it. You know, I love Black Coat's daughter.
Black
right?
Coat's daughter was my favorite
Great.
of his until then.
Hansel and Gretel, I only watched once. I have to
It was
revisit
cool.
that.
It
He's got
was
that
good. It
other
was a
one
little
too. He's only directed like 5
Pretty
or 6
Things
movies.
That Lives in the House.
Yes,
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that either. So he's great, man. I look forward to Keeper. I'm sure we'll talk about it when it comes out later this year. It looks really good. So looking forward to that. And that's the show. Thank you
That's the show.
to everyone that was in the chat talking to us, hanging out with us here. Thank you if you're listening after the fact. Subscribe, follow us on all the social medias at Haunted Hangover, Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Head over to everywhere. Head over to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Haunted Hangover 31. I just released an episode late last month with Mike from Whiskey Morgan. Hour and a half. We talked about Kid Safe the video, a weird child safety video directed by Stuart Gordon, of all people. It was really bizarre. We talked about it for 45 minutes. That was a fun time. And Mike took he ran the gauntlet with Haunted Hangover's Terrifying 20, answered 20 spooky personal questions about Halloween and horror. That was really fun. So I just want to hawk that here, get more people to the Patreon page. Good way to support the show. I might on one of these lives, I might have to test out the Terrifying 20 on Manny, just so that the listeners get a taste of.
So you know what to look for.
Yeah, give the listeners a taste.
About.
Give the listeners a taste of what we're doing over on Patreon and all that
Why
stuff.
not?
Gotta promote it. And remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Catch you guys later.